All right, so welcome back, everyone. We're back with another deep dive, and today we're going to kind of look at something pretty big,
Yeah, for sure.
kind of a big deal in American political history, and some legal stuff, too.
Yeah, definitely legal implications here.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack.
So we've got this CBS News article, and the title is pretty in your face. It's called Special Counsel's Final Report Says Trump Would Have Been Convicted of Election Interference If He Hadn't Won.
Wow. So they just put it all right out there, huh?
No kidding.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really say when it was published. I guess that doesn't really matter for what we're looking at.
Right, right. It's more about the content itself.
Exactly. So basically what we're going to dive into is this whole question of whether or not
All right.
former President Trump could have actually been, like,
Charged.
faced criminal charges for messing with the 2020 election. But the twist is the report's saying this would only happen if he wasn't president at the time.
So it's like a what if situation, right?
Yeah, big what if.
And it makes you think about like the power of the presidency and all that.
For sure, for sure. So first things first, I think it's helpful to make sure we're all on the same page about this whole election interference thing.
Oh, yeah, that's key.
Because it's a pretty broad term, right?
It is. I mean, it basically covers anything someone might do to mess with, disrupt, or just like manipulate how an election is supposed to work.
Okay, so give me some examples.
Sure. So, like, voter suppression, that's a big one. Trying to stop certain people from voting. Or, like, hacking into voting machines, trying to change the results electronically.
Right, right. And then there's all that stuff about spreading fake news.
Yeah. Disinformation, that's a huge part of it these days. Putting out false information to try and sway how people vote.
So is this report saying that Trump, like, did all of those things?
Well, not necessarily all of them, but the report does conclude that whatever actions he took, they fit the overall definition of election interference.
Mm-hmm.
And that there was like enough evidence to potentially think about,
Charging him. But they didn't actually charge him, right? That's what's so weird about this whole thing.
well, that's where the whole sitting president thing comes in. The report basically argues that because he was the president at the time, they couldn't prosecute him.
Oh, right, that presidential immunity thing.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. This idea that a president can't be indicted while they're still in office.
So the report's like a history lesson on presidential immunity.
Kind of, yeah. It goes into the background of it, different legal cases and how it's been used in the past.
So it's not just some random opinion. They're basing this on actual legal precedents.
Exactly. And here's the thing, this report also kind of raises questions about those precedents.
Oh, how so?
Well, it makes you think, like, what are the limits of presidential power? Where do we draw the line?
If a president can't be held accountable for breaking the law, that seems kind of, I don't know.
Messy.
Yeah, messy's a good word for it.
Yeah. And that's why this report is so important, I think. It forces us to have these conversations, to really examine how our legal system works, especially when it comes to the highest office in the land.
Okay, so let's recap all this for our listeners. We've got this report that says, based on the evidence, Trump's actions might have been criminal. But because he was president, he was basically untouchable.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary.
And now everyone's left wondering, like, where do we go from here? How does this change how we think about presidential power?
It's definitely a lot to process.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think there are any easy answers.
Right, right. So for anyone listening, we want you to think about this. Where do you stand on this whole presidential immunity thing? Is it fair? Does it need to change?
And how do you think this report might affect future presidents? Will it make them think twice before doing something that might be considered,
Election interference.
Exactly.
It's a lot to think about, and that's why we wanted to bring it to you today. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See ya.